Good evening and welcome. My name is Gatel Louise Nicholas, and I am your host for the GRN Show. But before we start the show, I would like to kindly remind everyone that we are on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, under the GRN Show. So please take a moment to like, comment, and share with others. And our shows generally, they are stored on YouTube. So if you miss one, you can always go to a previous show. But this evening is a conversation with one of the most liked elected officials. He is a great advocate for children, the environment, and ensuring the affordability of Broward County as a great place to live, to work, raise a family, and play. This is his third term serving as a Broward County Commissioner, and he's also served as the mayor. By profession, he is an educator and a great community leader. It is such a pleasure to have with us Commissioner Furr. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Gatel, it's great to be here.
Wonderful. Super.
We go back a long ways.
We certainly do. And the wonderful work you've done in the Hollywood community, you've left the legacy there and obviously served as commissioner in Hollywood and now Broward County Commissioner and former mayor. That's awesome.
Well, we go back before I was a commissioner, even in Hollywood, when you were doing some fantastic work at the city of Hollywood, and we were trying to build the building community from the inside out.
Correct.
And we were organizing the neighborhood actually that I live in, which is a low to moderate income. I still live there, and your help was invaluable.
Thank you.
I have always appreciated that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. And Hollywood is still one of my favorite cities because I've seen it really evolve into what it is, and I just love it, love it. But Commissioner, as a former educator and a current as a former educator and county commissioner now, what are the top issues that you feel are impacting our youth today?
Well, I've always felt like we have to have the best childcare possible because I do think it starts early. There's a big gap between when a lot of kids get to kindergarten and they're not as ready as some other kids. I taught dropout prevention, and I taught elementary school in 4th and 5th grade at Sunland Park Elementary. At the time, I don't know if it still is, but it was probably one of the poorest schools in the county, and it was my job to teach reading at that, and they didn't have a classroom for me, so we would go out under the trees. I'd go out with the kids that were having the hardest time, and I would try to get them, they were in 4th and 5th grade. By that time, hopefully you're reading, you've already learned to read and you're reading to learn. But for these kids, they had not learned to read yet. So, it was a wake-up call to me to find out how many kids were being left behind. Because the reality was I could work, honestly, I could work 24 hours a day, and it was hard to catch them up. I did everything I could, but it was like, it told me this is an issue, and this is a problem that has to be dealt with early. And to that end, I think I've been involved with a Born to Read program in Hollywood that pushed, as soon as kids were born, getting books in their hands, talking with parents. We actually used to have somebody at the Memorial Hospital when the mothers would come in for their early screenings, all those kind of things, when the kid was only like a couple weeks old, and we'd be there with books ready for them and
wow.
And show them how to do it. That was through the Children's Services Council, and that was my first introduction to the Children's Services Council. That was a fantastic program. We ended up having a book club that had over 10,000 parents in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So fast forward, after the recession in 2010, because of funding, that fell apart. But then I became a Broward County Commissioner, and it gave me an opportunity to work on a broader scale, because now I could work with the Broward County School District, Children's Services Council, Early Learning Coalition, and we started a thing called Broward Reads. And that has been a very good way to kind of rally all the resources together to make sure we kind of put our resources into a thing called Campaign for Grade Level Reading, to make sure that kids were on grade level by the time they got to third grade. We were on a really good trend. We went from, I think it was 47% grade level up to 60 something percent
Awesome.
over a period of only a few years, by working on making sure the childcare facilities had quality educators. We were working on wages. We were working on what the curriculum was. We actually started the Gulfstream Academy down in Hollandale that brought in the Broward College, and it's teaching, still is, childcare workers, giving them degrees, all those kind of things, to make sure that every childcare facility had the best of the best teachers. COVID kind of knocked us for a loop, and it knocked us backwards. So we're kind of having to crawl back up again. But that Broward Reads and that collaboration with those entities has and will make a difference again.
Great. It's interesting. I love the idea of people going to the hospital, whether it's while their children are being vaccinated or for whatever, and there's somebody there reading to them. So I love that. It's one of my concerns today, because you see little one in their strollers with a telephone in their hands, just
Right.
swiping and watching cartoons. So my concern's always been, are children really learning how to, that environment at home? Are they reinforcing that reading? Is there anything that really addresses that? I don't know, you've mentioned a reading program. I don't know if it's the Big Read.
Well, let me go back to what you just said, because you're absolutely right. And for your viewers, it's really good for them to know that the research shows they learn better with a book.
Mm-hmm.
They learn better with reading a book with in their lap with their parents. There's nothing better. And reading the same book a couple of times, over and over. That's where you get some of the rote memorization. That's absolutely important. With the phone and the electronic stuff, it doesn't sink in the same way. And people need to know that. I mean, honestly, if it was up to me, I would take computers out of the schools until third grade and have them work. That's not going to happen. But what we have been trying to do is expand access to the public library to make sure that every kid, every family has a library card. Mm-hmm. We've even gone through and this is unfortunately an unfortunate statistic. Even in the Broward County School District, there's about 100 schools right now that do not have a certified librarian. I don't know how you have a school that doesn't have a librarian. Mm-hmm. I'm a former librarian, so I'm a little biased on this. But because we knew that was happening, it's a matter of funding, because a lot of those schools that don't have a librarian are often underfunded, because kids are going to charter schools, they're going to private, whatever. So we have a reciprocal agreement now. Part of that Broward Reads is to make sure that when the first day of school now, the parents can sign off on getting a library card. And now over 100,000 families have a library card through the school, through Broward Reads. We need to make that more. But that's what that does, is it's making sure that the public library is open to the parents at a young age, and that there's reciprocity. And this is just a side note: if any book gets banned in the in the school library, we're making sure it's available in the public library.
Yay. Awesome.
Because that's from the Broward County Library perspective, we're not going down that road of banning books.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to take a short break and we will be right back.
Community Access Center ta yon fò sonje ke men ak partner li yo, li kapab fil taxou depi enkom ou moins passé $66,000 ou kapab qualifié pour fil taxou gratis si chéri sans payer un good. Sorti journée jodi pour rive 15 avril 2023, il y a plusieurs locations pour fil taxou gratis si chéri grâce à Broward Tax Pro Coalition. Dans Pat Lawkins Community Center qui est dans Pompano Beach, Florida, tous les mercredis et tous les vendredis, et puis tout dans Miramar Branch Library. Pour fil taxou gratis, c'est important pour réunir quelques documents pour rendez-vous, tant que identification légale, d'abord tout forme, carte sécurité sociale, bank statement, copie taxou année passée. Pour fil taxou gratis, depuis un commun en bas $66,000, il y a Community Access Center dans 954 534 91 13 ou carré tout dans 954 357 81 80 ou bien 754 999 0309. Fil taxou gratis depuis un commun en bas $66,000. C'est un courtoisie Community Access Center, mais nommé avec Broward Tax Pro Coalition.
We are back and we have with us Commissioner Furr, and we're talking about all sorts of things, specifically about some of the work he's done as an educator, as a public servant, and really it's pushing our children to continue to read, because nowadays we're not sure how much reading is being done, and obviously he's mentioned some initiatives that are currently going on. Let me ask you, Commissioner, do you think that with technology, maybe children should be given a Kindle, something that they can use because of their interest in technology?
Right.
Perhaps they can use it to read and they get little rewards.
Yeah, I mean, that's not any way you can get kids reading is good. Honestly, I would say before third grade, and this is just based on the research that I've read, I think it's better to give them books early.
Mm-hmm.
After third grade, there's a saying, from first to third, you're learning to read. From fourth on, you're reading to learn. And so up to third grade, I think you want to be reading books over and over again, same ones, like I said. Get them knowing what those words are, getting them a love of books, getting them a love of reading. A Kindle after that, then they have access. Absolutely, Kindle gives them access to all kinds of stuff, particularly because of Broward County Library, which is what they would have access to, has an enormous amount of electric books. electronic books
Beautiful.
that they would have access to. There's a reciprocal agreement with Broward County School Board where we're buying books to get, kind of on the same, making sure that the books they need are there. So I think the timing, I would wait till they're after third grade to give them the Kindle. That's just me. But it's, that's a parent, you know what? A parent would know if their kid's ready for it. So I
Good
don't want
point.
to, I don't want to second guess the parent.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Now, I know there is another issue you are passionate about, and climate change. We're all being impacted by it. There are all sorts of programs to really ensure we're a little more resilient as a planet and we continue with sustainability. It was interesting to see that Broward County has a climate change action plan. Obviously, it's a global threat. So tell us about what brought on Broward County's climate change action plan, and give us a few nuggets.
Okay, I wish I had it with me, but it was. This goes back to, we had a wonderful commissioner before I was on there. In fact, she left when I came on. Her name was Kristen Jacobs. And she really kind of helped get the county rolling in terms of its dealings with regard to climate change. She started the Southeastern Florida Compact with Palm Beach, Broward County, Miami-Dade, and Monroe County. And what that was a kind of a joining of forces, and not only forces, but the universities, and scientists, and really brought them all together to kind of work on this together and look at what we could do about it together. Together, we actually established a unified sea level rise indicator, which we still use, and it kind of has become the basis for our land use, future living conditions, future building conditions. We've already put in to ordinances things like future future maps, where the building levels have to be up to a certain degree, because we know what those, how much the sea level is going to rise. There's varying constructs that have it at certain levels or certain high, but for things like infrastructure, you need to be conservative. You have to make sure that it's not going to go over. So we have, we've also built into that where seawalls have to be a certain height, all those kind of things. But, I see it from a kind of a personal perspective. And I go at it from when I first moved down here in 1969. I would go snorkeling and I'd see our coral reefs. And it was like a sight, things I'd never seen before. And it was just absolutely beautiful. You'd see schools of all kinds of stuff, and every color in the world, the rainbows of the parrotfish flopping around and everything. And it was something just to behold. If you go out there now, that is not what you see. You've seen, unfortunately, because of the acidification of the ocean, the warming of the oceans, you're seeing you're not seeing the same thing. Let's just put it that way. And that is kind of a cause. Climate change is one of the causes of that. So to me, it's like for us to try to, and it's not just here. I mean, obviously, it's all around the world. The Great Barrier Reef is seeing it. It's seeing the bleaching. You're seeing it on all kind of levels. And it was just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, that the UN came out with the IPAC report, International something on climate change. And they're saying it point blank, we don't have time to be messing around, and that we've really got their own climate change action plan reflects what we are saying. That we've got to stop using fossil fuels as quickly as possible, and we're going to have to start, not using as many our cars, the gasoline. And I'm glad to see there's big changes happening. You're seeing in Broward County, we're not buying any more gas buses. We're not doing that anymore. Our entire fleet is undergoing a change to the electrification of it. You're seeing all of our main facilities. Look on the top, if you can see the top. I don't know if you can see, but it's all solar panels that allow for our buses to get charged that way. We're looking at any way possible to start to charge our buildings, the convention center that's being built. On top, you're going to see an entire array of solar panels that will give us a chance to run those convention centers as much as possible via that kind of thing. So it is in our DNA now at our point from the Broward County, from the Broward County's perspective. If we're looking at everything through a prism of how we deal with climate change. So if anything is being built, anything's being constructed, any kind of fleet that's being done, we're looking at it through that prism, and we're asking developers, we're asking cities, we're asking anybody and everybody, look at it through this prism before you go forward. And because we're ground zero. South Florida is ground zero for climate change. We are going to be affected from this probably quicker than anybody in the United States. We have the potential of being flooded, honestly, before everybody else, because where I'm sitting right now, I'm sitting at right where I sit is at 13 feet above sea level.
Oh,
and all of Florida, all of South Florida is, and I'm at the high spot. I'm at a high spot because I'm right next to the railroad, which is a small ridge. East of me is at 5 and 8 feet above sea level. That's not much, And when you're talking about sea level rise expecting to go between 4 and 6 feet by 2050, there's not a lot of room for error there. And you're seeing our entire area down here is based on a gravity-fed drainage from the Everglades down out to the sea. We are going to have pump-driven drainage within from our own department are saying we need to have those pumps in place within 10 to 15 years. That's going to be an enormous Herculean feat to get that done. But that's what we're working on. Those are high priority.
I was reading that our current administration is really pushing to ensure that our communities become a little more resilient. There are dollars available. But I have to tell you, we looked at buying an electric car, a hybrid.
Right.
They are so much more expensive. And I get it. I get it that you save in the long run, you're not buying gas. But I think, how do we make these things accessible to low to moderate income residents?
I am with you because I went looking myself and I can't afford one right yet. I want one. You want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing, and I'm trying to find one that I can just use locally. That is, somewhere that's. I'll go with a golf cart if I have to. That's kind of where I'm at, because I do want to do the right thing, and I do think what you're going to see is within the next couple of years, you're seeing a lot of those prices coming down. It's still kind of new, but you're seeing not only is the infrastructure being built for charging stations all around, you're seeing that has to be there for people to feel comfortable to buy one. They don't want to get stuck. But so at the same time, while that's going on, we need to have mass transit, that's going to work, and that people can feel comfortable, that's timely, they can depend on, it's cheap. We got to be working both of those. We just got a $500 million grant from the federal government last week to build the coastal link which is the railroad system, up and down that connects 40 cities from Miami all the way up to Jupiter. That's
Wow.
when, at some point, it used to be that. Right now, it's only going from Miami up to Fort Lauderdale. It'll be going Miami to Fort Lauderdale. But the goal is to go all the way up and then start to have mass transit that connects all the stations going east-west. The surtax that we passed in 2018, that's what that's for, so that people can go from east to west and make those connections where they need to make it. So, it's not going to work on everything, on all levels, but it's a multi-pronged approach. I think you'll start to see probably things like Uber and Lyft being used to go from your home, or shuttles from your home to the bus stop, so that you can get on there. And my hope is that the buses are clean, they're safe, that they have Wi-Fi, that people say, this makes sense for me. I rode Tri-Rail the other day. It was great. It was great. I could spend my whole time, instead of fighting traffic, I was reading a book. And I was like, man, this is great. But I know Tri-Rail is dependable right now. I was there at 8:52, and the train was there at 8:52. I'm like, this is perfect.
Awesome.
So that's kind of, we need to have that kind of dependability that people can say, yeah, I'll leave my car at home for a while.
And that is a great point. I think so. We've become so dependent on our car. Growing up, I grew up in a train and buses. Even if as a young adult, I had a car at home, but going to Manhattan, I wouldn't dare take my car to work during weekday. So most people rode the train or the bus. So perhaps that's where we are moving. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So we're looking at transportation. It's all part of that climate change action plan. As individuals and as residents, what are your thoughts, and what can we individually do in our own homes that may correlate with the action plan?
There's a part that people don't recognize how much they can actually do. One of the largest culprits in climate change in that is garbage. The landfills that we have. Everybody knows Mount Trashmore.
Yes.
Landfills next to transportation are some of the most, they emit more methane than almost everything else. I mean, way more than lots of stuff. And it used to be in the 1960s, we would have, like, each family might have maybe a pound or two of garbage that they'd get rid of every day. Now it's up to 5, 6, 7 pounds of each person of garbage. So we're going to need to take a look at ourselves and our habits, what we're buying, how we're disposing of it, how we're, and right now our county is looking at it, and on a regional basis, how we can maybe simplify a few things, how maybe we can be composting at home, how we can recycle. A lot of those things are within our own personal habits that individually it may not seem like a lot, but I will tell you right now, we are dealing with, every day, Broward County, over 3,000 tons of garbage, 4 million tons of garbage a year in Broward County. We need to find a way to divert that, find ways to quit sending as much to the landfill. And we've got a pretty good interlocal agreement about to happen. My hope is, actually, it's next Thursday, where all the cities are gathering. We have been working on an interlocal agreement between the county and all the cities for a couple of years now, where that interlocal agreement is being presented to them next Thursday, and then it will be taken back to their respective governments to be voted on. My hope is by June 1st of this year, we have an interlocal agreement that puts in place a solid waste agreement and a solid waste system for this entire county that is very progressive looking, forward looking, and my hope is that we start to look at the garbage and we take care of those resources that we have, find ways to recycle them, and find ways of creating things with those manufacturers, bringing manufacturers, and start to have a circular economy that uses that plastic to create, construction materials, carpets, T-shirts, whatever.
Artwork.
Yeah, all those kind of things. I mean, I know one company that we did a Shark Tank recently on resilience at Nova, and you wouldn't believe the incredible things that people are coming up with right now. One of the things is using recycled glass to build these seawalls. That instead of, people don't want to build seawalls because they, if they live on the water, because they can't see their view. This company was building seawalls that you could look through, windows, big giant windows that were flood-proof, bulletproof, that you could build as a seawall, and you could still have the view. But it was all made out of recycled material. So it was like, those are the kind of things, if we can become the epicenter of resilience in this county, I think it would be fantastic.
Super, super. I think we've approached the end of our interview. I'd like for you, Commissioner, what are your last words to our viewers on the two topics we've spoken about?
I would say I'll say on education in general. This is it's a big topic right now. You're seeing it on a statewide level. And it really does come down to trying to make sure that we are an educated society. If you're not an educated society, you are not going to be having the best of decisions. We depend on it. Our democracy depends on it. You want an educated citizenry, because that's the way we make good decisions. You don't want to be, having everybody put their finger up to the wind and making decisions that way. So that starts at a young age. So I think anything and everything we can do to make sure our kids are reading at grade level and are reading to learn and have all of the entire bank of information that is at their disposal. And our library is going to be doing that. With regard to the environment, we've only got one planet. Let's take care of it with everything we got, and make sure we're handing down to our children and our grandchildren a place that they can take care of, and that they can live, work, and play and enjoy themselves, and become the best of their best potential. So that's about all I got to say.
On that note, Commissioner, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And thanks for all the wonderful work you're doing at Children's Services Council, as well as the county. Thanks again.
Thanks, Gatel. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good evening.
You too.
To our viewers, we'll be right back. We're taking a short break.
Community Access Center ta yon fò sonje ke menanme ak partner li kapab fil taksou depi enkom ou moins pase $66,000 ou kapab kalifiye pou fil taksou gratis si chéri sans payon goud. Soti jounen jodi an pou rive 15 avril 2023, il y a plusieurs locations pour fil taksou gratis si chéri grâce à Broward Tax Pro Coalition. Dans Pat Lawkins Community Center qui dans Pompano Beach, Florida, tous les mercredis et tous les vendredis, et puis tout dans Miramar Branch Library. Pour fil taxe gratis, c'est important pour réunir quelques documents pour rendez-vous, tant que identification légale, d'abord tout forme, carte sécurité sociale, bank statement, copie taxe année passée. Pour fil taxe gratis, depuis un commun en bas $66,000, les Community Access Center, dans 954 534 91 13, ou carré tout dans 954 357 81 80 ou bien 754 999 0309. Fil taxe gratis depuis un commun en bas $66,000. C'est un courtoisie, Community Access Center, main à main avec Broward Tax Pro Coalition.
We are back, and we had a great conversation with Commissioner Furr and talking not only about some of the resources that are available to children, but also about saving our planet, what the county is doing to really ensure we're prepared when they're, obviously we're in Florida, and they anticipate a good portion of Florida will be underwater at some point. So it was a great conversation. But before we end, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about our world, which is forever changing. Climate change, of course, is a big thing. We have got to familiarize ourselves with ways and strategies that we can use at home to save our planet. But most importantly, we've also talked about our children, getting them to read, getting them educated, because it's everything is connected to reading. The Big Read is a program that Children's Services Council has available, as well as Broward County Libraries. So in order for our children to really become responsible adults and prepare for the future, they have to learn how to read. So from what I understand with Commissioner Furr, get them to read books, up to the 3rd grade, and then they can become a little more involved with technology after the 3rd grade. And of course, if they read to understand, they too can participate in our initiative to save the planet as we get further and further into climate change. So with that, I really want to thank you for joining us this evening, and until next Saturday, good night.